Well, for more on what we can expect from the G7 summit, we want to talk to Marc Ross. He is the founder of Caracal Global. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So we understand that President Trump really set the tone going into this, Mark. He said that the European Union is treating us very unfairly, Canada treating us very unfairly. How will he be received? He's already said he's going to leave early.
Yeah, it's interesting. He arrived late and he plans to leave early. Most people, when they visit Canada, they have more fun, but the president started the day quite excitedly announcing that Russia should rejoin the G7. So I think the face-to-face conversations appear to be quite cordial, but I'm sure behind the scenes there's a lot of disagreement.
So the EU has called Mr. Trump's tariffs protectionism, pure and simple. They're, among other things, talking about retaliatory measures. Will this come to fruition?
I think you're looking at a situation, not only the tariffs, but over the last few weeks, you've had the Jerusalem, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, the Paris climate deal, the Iranian nuclear deal. There's a lot of stuff that the allies, frankly, are very disrupted and very upset with President Trump. So how that moves forward will be quite interesting. I think the fact that there will be probably no resolution, no communique, and more discussions, which is also something we should think about. The NATO meetings and the UK visit will be coming up in July. So President Trump will meet with a lot of these folks again in a few weeks' time.
President Trump talking about Canada, he says, look at the backstory there. He tweeted about the 270% tariff on dairy products that Canada enjoys. Is this the way to go about working this out? What is the point of this? Is this a photo op for him?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. The president really came and in his mind, he's campaigning. This is what he talked about. This is what he promised his constituency when he won the presidency, that he would stand up for American rights, be tougher with folks in terms of our trade deals. But what is the strategy? I mean, that is the real question. To think that the Chinese Dairy Association should be the, the friction point between the U.S. and Canada is pretty frivolous. I mean, the U.S. is many times larger than Canada, and frankly, we buy more goods and services from Canada just because we're, frankly, a larger market. We have a math problem here, not really a friction problem.
Vladimir Putin in Beijing, where he was presented with a friendship medal by his Chinese counterpart. Is there a move in some way to be more inclusive with Russia?
I think, no. I mean, I think this is a lot of posturing. I think Trump woke up today and said, how can I make this an interesting event? And he threw out the Russia thing. I think, obviously, Putin spending time in Beijing is smart politics for him. But in terms of Putin rejoining the G7, I don't see that happening anytime soon.
So the Kremlin says they're interested in other formats as opposed to the G7. What could that be, Mark?
Well, there's rumors that the Austrian government has actually reached out and said they would like to host a summit between President Putin and President Trump in the coming weeks. So I think that'd be quite interesting. But once again, what is the point of these meetings? I mean, Trump, as you rightly pointed out, likes the photo ops, likes to spend time on the foreign stage. But what, at the end of the day, is he really trying to accomplish? These are the big problems we're facing as you try to manage a world economy.
So UK Prime Minister Theresa May says she wants the EU to act with restraint and proportion in retaliating to the U.S. tariffs. She says she will not be having a bilateral meeting, but this is not a snub, is it?
I would say it's definitely a snub. I think if you look at the headlines that came out of London this morning, Theresa May is in a tremendously difficult position. She's not only navigating Brexit, but she's also hoping that the U.S. will be a great trading partner going forward. No, I think that is not the case. I think the situation Theresa May finds herself in is very problematic. And, she does have to deal with Trump again in a few weeks' time in July when he makes a visit to the UK. So maybe she'll be able to spend more time with him then. But the fact that, the U.S. and the UK are not having a bilateral is pretty outrageous.
Talking about Iran, climate change, what do you expect to see out of this there?
I think in the short term, those things will come up. I don't see there'll be any kind of communique or agreement. And like I said, I think a lot of stuff will be kicked down the road. Trump, frankly, he really sees the next week's summit in Singapore as much more important, as he's leaving early tomorrow to head off to Asia. I think there'll be a lot of talk, a lot of hand-wringing, but nothing really accomplished.
So this is really just a pit stop for him, showing a face.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's interesting, there's a circus performance tonight by Cirque du Soleil for all the attendees. So maybe that's a good metaphor for this summit.
All righty. Well, Marc Ross, we certainly appreciate your time with Caracal. Thank you so much for coming in.